Hello, hello. Welcome back to Intuition Lab. This is number 4, and today is Emotional Intelligence Part 2. So last week, if you were on, we spoke about just your what's the difference between feelings and emotions. We started to talk about expanding your emotional vocabulary. So hopefully over the last week, you were paying attention to your vocabulary and noticing what words might be similar, whether it's bliss and excitement, or the difference between joy and what else? All the differences between joy and excitement and bliss, and expanding that vocabulary so that you can start really getting in tune with your body and what message those emotions have for you, because each emotion is guiding you in a certain direction. So today what we want to talk about is when you have conflicting emotions, what do you do? So what happens when you're bored and tired and excited all at one time? So we're going to share about that. But first, I wanted to touch on a question that I got after our last live. And so if one person had it, I figured maybe some of you also have the similar question. And so I was chatting with Stephen about it, and what does he do and what do I do when we have this same experience? And that is that when you're walking down the street or when you walk into work and somebody asks you, how are you? And oftentimes our regular response, our normal response is, oh, I'm good, right? You just answer really quickly. And what if you actually don't really feel like expounding on that? What if you don't feel like going into, how do I really feel today? And so I asked Stephen what's his response when somebody does that to him, and then I'll share my response.
I typically have a lot of feelings, so I would say something like, that's a loaded question, and maybe we can find some other time to chat about it, but I am processing a lot at the moment, and move on to ask them what's happening. So I'm being authentic. I do not like to lie and say, oh, I'm all good, I'm awesome, and inside I'm feeling like crap. And this allows me to speak my truth, but not having to expend too much about it. And if someone is really interested, then we can create a time for that.
Yeah, so the point is that it's really important to keep staying in integrity with your emotions, even if you don't feel like having a long, drawn-out conversation. If you're walking into work and you're really having a shitty day and you don't feel like sharing that with your boss, that's totally fine, but that's a great way to say it so that you can still be authentic, you can still be in integrity, and you don't have to go into a long, drawn-out conversation. Another way that you can answer it is, do you want the short version or the long version? So if you actually have time and you do want to share with somebody and you have the time to really get into it, sometimes I say, do you want the short version or the long version? Because then that person has the ability to decide for themselves. Are they asking just because it's kind of the normal thing that we ask one another, or do they really want to know how you're doing in that moment? So either one of those works, but it's a great question because we get that question on a regular basis at least 20 times. So hopefully one of those works for you. So today we are diving into what happens when you have conflicting emotions. So we wanted to give you an example of this because I think examples work the best in terms of trying to put yourself in the shoes of, okay, what happens when I feel tired and bored and excited at the same time? So I'll let Stephen share an example.
So for example, first I want to distinguish what we talked about before, the difference between feelings and emotions. So if you recall, if you are not live, feelings could be multiple feelings, and you could be excited and sad and tired and bored, and they all coexist at the same time, and that's perfectly okay. And the awareness of it can actually guide you. So for example, you're at an event, you're excited to be there because you want to meet new people, you're bored at the conversation with the person you're with, and you also feel tired because you haven't slept very much last night. So you're aware of all those feelings, and then maybe it guides you, maybe to move to another conversation, another person, or maybe if the tired feeling is very strong, maybe it's time to go home. So those kind of feelings are not conflicting, they're different, and they are guiding you to what's best for you in the moment. Now, conflicting emotions is a different thing. So, for example, we were we're doing an event, and we were all aligned with the dates for the event. And then we found out that one of our facilitators cannot attend the event on that date. So we checked for other dates, and the other dates do not work very well for us, and also are not working very well with the hotel. So we felt excited about having the other facilitator with us, but we have some conflicting emotions around that because we don't want to change the date that we have right now that is in the highest alignment. So one method of resolving conflicting emotions is to ask yourself, what's the intention behind the emotion? And that is a deeper sense to what is really happening. So our original intention was to have the event on that date, and it's all concluded with the hotel, and we can move forward and do that. What was the intention without a facilitator who cannot make it? Well, we really wanted to include that a facilitator in our work. We feel it's great value, and that created another conflict for us. So by looking at what is our core intention, which was to have the event when we aligned to do it, then having the other facilitator that created the conflict was less than. And we had to reframe that intention that maybe we could have it at a different time. So we can have the other facilitator work with us in a different event and then stay in alignment with this event. So finding the intention behind the emotion that creates the conflict is critical, because then you can know what is really in alignment for you and what is less in alignment, and then decide based on that. Now, but the beauty of it is those emotions were very strong, and the indication it told us that we got from that is that we want to work without a facilitator because it was strong, and we also want to stick to the event as it was originally planned this time.
So even just think of something in your life or your business, because this happens a lot, right? You really want to do two things at one time and they're not aligning. So you have to make a choice. And so the key of that is not to follow the emotion as much as really going back to the original intention of what is the intention behind what you are wanting to do. And when you do that, it makes the decision easier. Are we still disappointed and sad that we're not going to be able to have that facilitator for this particular event? Yeah, absolutely, sure. But can we manifest it at another time because we have stayed in alignment? Absolutely. And we can probably manifest it more quickly because we are staying in alignment versus just being dragged around by what we want that doesn't quite fit.
So just hearing you say that right now, when we talked about sensations, I got goosebumps all over my body, and I felt expanded and in alignment with that possibility we just created to align the other facilitator to another event.
Yeah.
And that feels good.
Yeah.
Not good, but exciting and expensive.
Good catch. So, let's see. So just to recap, feelings, before they are activated, when you are having multiple feelings at one time, they might not necessarily be conflicting. They're just different. And so whatever feels the most up, that's the one that is allowing you to be guided. So that is why it's so important to start getting really in tune with what emotions you are feeling, and what feelings you are feeling, I guess, so that you can start being guided. And then it also decreases the amount of decision making you have to make in your life, because if the tired is the overriding feeling at the party, then it's an easy decision just to go home and there will be another party or networking event. So allowing your feelings to really be your guide. And then secondly, if it's the emotions that are up, then going back to the original intention as a way to resolve which direction you should go. So if you have questions about that, please continue to drop them in the comments, or feel free to reach out. There were a lot of people that reached out and messaged last time about questions that they still had. So please do that. We will be happy to answer those, even if you're watching the replay. And we have an event coming up on Thursday of next week, so the 12th. So if you are local here in Denver, every first Thursday of the month, we have Create X, which is a way to really start tapping into the bigger field. And so this one, we are concentrating on emotions, of course. So if you are interested in playing in the field of emotions with other people in a really awesome community, please join us on the 12th. And then the event that Stephen was talking about, which we will get on a live completely separately, is we have a 3-day event coming up November now for sure, 8th through 10th. Here in Colorado as well, and there are people traveling in from out of state for that as well, so it doesn't matter whether you are local or not. And we will get on here and share kind of exactly what that whole event is about coming up here in the next few days. So stay tuned for that. Anything else from you?
Just have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Whatever you're feeling, have fun with it.
Yeah.
You could have fun with your feelings. Have you ever considered that?
Absolutely.